With the latest agriculture news from across the state and nation, it's time for the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. Here's your host, Brian German.
Good morning, and thanks for tuning in to the AgNet News Hour. We've got a pretty full program today featuring our friend Mike Wade from the California Farm Water Coalition to finish up a conversation about the latest water news, and we talk to Surendra Dara a little later in the show about a survey about the use of biologicals in California agriculture. But first, several industry groups are collaborating to provide a new food safety training program. The Arizona Leafy Greens Marketing Agreement, California Leafy Greens Marketing Agreement, and Yuma Safe Produce Council have launched a collaborative online food safety training platform, offering free training on various topics including Arizona LGMA food safety requirements, California LGMA pre-harvest testing, and Yuma Safe Produce Council supervisor training. The trainings are available in both English and Spanish. All courses are self-paced, taking about 2 to 3 hours each, and upon completion, participants receive a certificate. The platform, designed by Food Safety CTS, aims to enhance food safety practices within the fresh produce industry. Anyone in the fresh produce industry can access the training platform, which provides valuable resources to ensure safe and high-quality produce. In other leafy greens news, California LGMA is sponsoring 4 training courses in Salinas next week. From May 28th through the 31st at the Monterey County Farm Bureau, courses will cover things like environmental assessments, cleaning and sanitation of farm equipment, and managing and supervising personnel and harvesting operations. And with more event news, here's John Harrith.
The U.S. Meat Export Federation Spring Conference in Kansas City will feature an impressive lineup of speakers, including CattleFax CEO Randy Block, who will update USMEF members on the U.S. cattle industry's herd rebuilding efforts.
We all know we've been fighting drought for a number of years, and things are starting to turn. Last year was a better year for moisture, and we're seeing a slowdown in cow slaughter. We're seeing the number of heifers placed on feed slow down. Looks like we have more people that at least have the intent to start holding a few more heifers back. So there's some positive things developing there if this weather situation will continue to cooperate. Obviously, we've been going through a situation that as these supplies shrink, prices have gotten higher. But the market continues to incentivize people to make cattle better. Higher grading cattle, continue to stay focused on high quality cattle in our production systems, and I don't think that's going to change based on the price signals we're seeing.
Also addressing the conference will be Kip Tom, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations for Food and Agriculture.
As a farmer and someone that my income comes from sales of crops, I understand that we can't live in a protectionist bubble. We need to make sure that we have sales going on around the world. And I know this audience already gets this, but we need to look beyond the borders of the United States and look around the world on what's going on with trade, consumption patterns, and what are the risks we could potentially face. I'll speak to that. I'll get into what hunger looks like around the world and why food security is national security. I'll talk a little bit about some of the geopolitical risks associated with our industry and that trade around the world. I'll talk a little bit about the EU Green Deal, the Farm to Fork Initiative, Proposition 12 here in the United States. Finally, I'll probably wrap up a little bit more on what does consumption look like for the animal protein sector going into the future.
For more on the conference, please visit usmef.org. For the U.S. Meat Export Federation, I'm John Harrith.
Thanks, John. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is urging eligible conservation partners to propose projects to study the impacts of the Conservation Reserve Program. $10 million is being made available for the effort to research the environmental benefits and outcomes of CRP. According to the Notice of Funding Opportunity, projects may range from 1 to 5 years, and awards range between $500,000 to $5 million. Eligible entities, including public, small business, and nonprofit institutions, can submit proposals individually or as part of a group. Proposals due by June 7th should focus on ecosystem benefits, farm operations resilience, or CRP's broader role in natural resource management. The Farm Service Agency aims to enhance the CRP's effectiveness and goals based on research outcomes. And in other news, the U.S. Commerce Department is set to increase tariffs on phosphorus fertilizers imported from Morocco. The planned increase is substantial, going from just over 2% to more than 14%. This move follows a request from domestic fertilizer company Mosaic citing an import dispute with another multinational company. The National Corn Growers Association has expressed concern over the increase, warning that higher fertilizer prices could exacerbate farmers' challenges amid already high input costs and declining corn prices. The proposed tariff increase would go into effect in November and reportedly aim to counter alleged unfair trade practices, but faces opposition from farm groups advocating for lower tariffs to ease input costs. At the same time, the Commerce Department has also moved to lower duties on Russian phosphate fertilizer from over 28% down to nearly 19%. This is the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. I'm your host, Brian German, and we'll be back in just a moment with more of the day's national headlines and local reports when we return.
This segment is brought to you by Live Earth Products. To get to know a little more about Live Earth Products, we're talking on the phone today with Vice President Russell Taylor. And to start us out, Russell, tell us about the Conservationist of the Year and what goals you would like to see occur this year.
So this is continuing work as the Certified Crop Advisor Conservationist of the Year. They're looking for certified crop advisors who are trying to aid farmers in getting information or conservation practices. One thing we've identified that is keeping farmers from getting conservation practices is actually just information and products. The current federal regulations actually were written in the 1950s. And at that time, those rules were only restricting fertilizers and pesticides. They didn't put into account other developing technologies such as plant biostimulants and some of these newer technologies we're using in agriculture. And so for 2024, our goal is to really help change the laws that are impacting biostimulant regulation to allow them to be used and treated as a fertilizer, not as a pesticide.
So what does that process look like to go through that and get that change to be where it needs to be?
Well, actually, there's a very long on-ramp. We've been working on this since 2014. And the bricks that we've laid on this path are now hopefully being included in the Farm Bill. So more than anything now, it's just supporting the work we've already done, trying to get legislators aware of the problem and hopefully enact those rules. There's an act right now by California regulators. It's called the Plant Biostimulant Act. And so the best thing that farmers can do is call up and say, hey, we support this language. This is going to give us more tools to enact those conservation practices and have more products available to us. Thank
you, Russell. To get to know more about Live Earth products, you can visit them online at liveearth.com. That is spelled LIVEARTH.com. I'm Sabrina Halverson.
You're listening to the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. I'm your host, Brian German, and we've got more of the day's agriculture news right now.
At the Ag on the Mall event taking place in Washington, D.C., I have with me Bill Hurley with AGCO. And first of all, Bill, tell us a little bit about what you do for AGCO.
My name again is Bill Hurley, and I'm Vice President with AGCO and run our Global Government Affairs organization.
Well, tell us a little bit about this exhibit you've put out here on the mall. You've got a bunch of equipment, and I'm sure hoping we got some attendees show up here and ask you a lot of questions. What are you going to tell them?
Well, first, I think we're excited to be here and even more excited the fact that this event is occurring. And, you know, it's titled as the Celebration of Modern Ag on the Mall. And it's supported and led by the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. I'm fortunate to be able to serve as the chair of the Ag Sector Board for AEM. And you look at this event, and it is really about the ag equipment industry, the advanced ag technology groups coming together in a very unique place, you know, here in Washington, D.C. I know the listeners can't see it. We're looking at the Washington Monument and the U.S. Capitol. But the real intent of it is to be able to bring the message of the innovation that is occurring in the ag industry today to Washington, you know, whether that's the policymakers, the legislators, the regulators, and help them to truly understand what ag technology is doing today in regards to reducing our farmers' environmental footprint and ultimately enabling us as an industry to feed the world in a sustainable manner.
Well, just looking around at the exhibits in 3 sections of the mall here, you've got a lot of companies that are involved.
Yes, we do. I believe we've got 25 or 28 equipment manufacturers, and then over 30 ag-related associations and trade groups that are here, again, coming together to deliver our message of ag innovation and what it enables us to do from a sustainability standpoint.
Well, let's talk about AGCO for a minute, and what we like to know what's new. What's kind of like latest products out on the market, that kind of thing.
Well, I think AGCO. It is a unique American success story. We're one of the largest OEM ag equipment manufacturers in the world. The only pure play ag. That's all we focus on, and we are 34 years old. And so we look at our growth. It's been exceptional. And today, as you look at all of the equipment on our lot, both from the traditional tractor and sprayer perspective, but it's really about the technology and the advanced solutions that are in all of these machines that are either focused on things like improved fuel economy, but also pesticide reduction, the ability to manage seeds with a planter by the individual seed. And so it's those types of things that we're exceptionally proud of and excited about. But you ask what's new, probably one of the biggest things is we were just able to complete a joint venture with Trimble. And so we've launched our new PTX organization, which includes the Trimble technology piece, but also our precision planning. And as we see that as just a true launching pad for us to continue to deliver more advanced ag technology solutions.
What can you tell me about this for farmers who would be interested? What is it going to accomplish, and how do they be involved in that?
Well, again, I think you look, everything that we develop is, number one, it's going to have sustainability in mind, but it's also going to be focused on how do we either help a farmer become more productive or more efficient. And either one of those, you take cost out or you increase production. And that truly is the focus of everything that we do and everything, frankly, that you see on our lot here today.
Well, it's great to see you here, Bill, and we are at the Ag on the Mall event that's taking place in Washington, D.C. I'm Chuck Zimmerman reporting.
You're listening to the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. We'll be back in just a moment with more agriculture news. You're listening to the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. I'm your host, Brian German, and with today's agricultural law and tax report, here's Roger McOwen.
An important aspect of deciding whether to cash rent or lease your ground on shares is the tax treatment of the rental income. Not only are income tax considerations involved, but your estate plan might also be impacted by the choice. When deciding whether to cash rent or rent your ground on shares, don't forget the income tax and estate planning considerations. Cash rental income is reported on Schedule E, where it is not subject to self-employment tax. But if the lease involves you bearing production or price risk, report the rental income on Schedule F if you materially participate. If you don't materially participate in a share lease arrangement, report the rental income on Form 4835, where it's also not subject to self-employment tax. As for estate planning, cash rental arrangements might cause your estate to not qualify for certain post-death provisions such as special use valuation, which can reduce federal estate tax. It can also prevent your estate from qualifying to pay federal estate tax over 15 years instead of 9 months after death. Both of these estate tax provisions will become more important if the Congress allows the federal estate tax exemption to drop for deaths after 2025. When you are deciding on the type of farm lease to have, don't forget the tax and estate planning issues that might be involved. This has been the Agricultural Law and Tax Report. I'm Roger McOwen.
What might modern agriculture look like? One example is
various technologies, starting with spray drift control, planting technologies, nutrient management, and just broad sustainability precision agriculture.
Along with the innovations, equipment, and practices that bring such tech into practical and commercial application. That, according to Nick Tyndall of the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. His organization is the lead sponsor of a recent event focused on modern ag, an event that allowed opportunity to see what such innovations look like, and in some cases how they operate, along the National Mall in Washington, D.C.
We started the first celebration of modern ag on the National Mall in 2022. That brought in 15 equipment manufacturers and 21 agricultural trade association partners. Last year, we actually did construction on the National Mall to add some variety and brought back agriculture for this year with 25 equipment manufacturers and 31 trade groups.
Those fortunate to visit the Modern Ag event on the mall during its 3-day run had opportunity to look firsthand at
autonomous sprayers to planters, tractors, aerial drones, and our trade association partners showing off the latest in seed genetics, chemistries, and in-field conservation practices.
Among those visiting the various exhibits at the Modern Ag display, Agriculture Deputy Secretary Social Torres Small.
When I think about precision ag, I think about it as being fundamental to confronting challenges. Whether it's taking on drought that we're increasingly starting to see in fields, whether it's driving down the cost of inputs, or whether it's collecting that data and figuring out how to produce a crop that's healthier, that's more productive, and that's going to give a higher value for our farmers.
Tyndall himself is amazed with how advanced ag equipment and innovation has become in recent years.
All the technology that is inside these tractors, the 3.5 million lines of code that allow it to drive itself, to put seeds exactly where they need to go, and to put pesticides and other inputs like fertilizer exactly where they need to go, so we can use less of all those vital inputs, including water and just land area in general, while producing the food we need to sustainably provide for a growing world.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Over $1.3 million has been raised for 4-H youth through the Clover campaign. Tractor Supply Company, in partnership with the National 4-H Council, announced that its Paper Clover campaign raised over $1.3 million for 4-H youth nationwide, moving the fundraiser's grand total to over $20 million. We are filled with gratitude and admiration for how our local communities have shown up to help so many young people across America access 4-H programming, says John Ortis, Chief Stores Officer at Tractor Supply and a member of the National Council of 4-H Board of Trustees. In the span of 13 years, we've achieved remarkable results, and we are on pace to reach another milestone even faster. The biannual Paper Clover fundraiser invites customers to purchase a Paper Clover at checkout in any Tractor Supply stores nationwide. 90% of all donations directly support 4-H youth in the state in which they were made, while the remaining 10% support national 4-H programming. I'm Will Jordan for AgNet West.
Thanks, Will. And in other news, California agriculture's adoption of new practices and approaches can serve as an example for the nation. New Global Director of Government Relations and External Affairs for NetFM, Aubrey Betancourt, explains how California's approach to issues like efficient water use can be modeled in other regions.
As we always have said, right, so go California, so goes the nation. Well, in this instance, this is actually a big positive. And California is driving these changes because we have these challenges, sometimes regulatory, sometimes natural, and has been such a partner to develop the solutions here. So now California can export these solutions and these approaches to the rest of the country and even to the rest of the world in some ways. Subsurface drip on alfalfa. You know, here I come from almonds, which got a bad rap for water use, of course, which we have dispelled because almonds have been an incredible adapter of these types of technology, increasing their efficiency, increasing their productivity on the same resource footprint. Applying that to other crops, applying that to other regions is really a big drive and focus now. So, you know, you're looking at various challenges around the West, particularly when it comes to water supply. So definitely a place that more education, more exposure to this type of farming. You know, we talk about it in so many ways, right? What got us here doesn't necessarily going to get us there. We can work through this and remain profitable, and we should demand to do that. We also should demand that we have the resources and technology made available to us to be able to do that.
This is the AgNet News Hour, and I'm your host, Brian German. We'll be back in just a moment with more agriculture news. Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West Radio Network. Mike Wade is back with us again this morning, Executive Director of the California Farm Water Coalition. And now, Mike, I just wanted to get some of your insight on the latest memorandum of understandings that were signed and now what those could mean moving forward.
I just think that what we were involved with were encouraged by the new partnerships that are burgeoning between Valley entities and Metropolitan Water District. The general manager for Metropolitan, Adel Haji Khalil, referred to these MOUs as a Mulholland moment. So he sees big opportunities going forward for both sides. And I think the enthusiasm that came from the Valley and the number of people that were in the room to witness the signing of these MOUs indicates a real optimism for the future of water supply, or future partnerships. So I think it's recognizing the opportunities to collaborate on projects that are mutually beneficial. I mean, I think there's a real genuine effort underway among water agencies to find solutions. And I mean, this is nothing new for Metropolitan. They have worked closely in the Sacramento Valley on mutually beneficial projects, and ag irrigation and water districts, by the same token, have been willing participants to solve problems that also have beneficial value to Metropolitan, to Southern California water users. So, we're at a point in California's history where there's genuine efforts underway to solve problems collaboratively and to find mutually beneficial solutions. I just, I think it's more than just biting the bullet and having to make concessions for the sake of, peace. It is collaboration for the sake of success.
Yeah, anytime entities can openly come together voluntarily to work toward a common goal, in this case, addressing water concerns, seems like that's a pretty good recipe for success. And now on the subject of water, I also wanted to get some of your thoughts on the recent report detailing California's groundwater situation. Now, it seems like things are finally trending in the right direction, but what are your thoughts on what was highlighted in that report from DWR?
I get the sense that things are beginning to improve. We're seeing, I think DWR reported at Aqua that there were 73 groundwater management plans that had been approved, 13 that are still under consideration or have gone back for revisions, and then only 6 that have been rejected, and they're potentially going into an oversight situation from the state board. So I think, while the future of ag in California with respect to groundwater is still troublesome because of the large amount of water that has to be, or the pumping restrictions that we're facing going forward, and reducing overdraft is still a problem. There will be impacts in agriculture. I think we're seeing from Cigna's perspective, there's progress being made in getting plans done and approved and being implemented.
Now, it seems like with some of those numbers improving somewhat, there might be an opportunity to really highlight the value of some of the recharge efforts on farmlands. I know that's something that's been talked about quite a bit, and Governor Newsom took some action to try and make some of those projects a little easier to implement, but seems like an opportunity with this report and showing some progress. Maybe it's an opportunity to really highlight the value there and maybe get some kind of funding or just further support that could help these efforts even further.
Well, I mean, I don't know about asking for support and funding, but certainly there's progress underway, and we're learning new ways to manage water and to replenish groundwater basins when there's water available. And I think moving forward with allowing the floodwaters, high flow years to divert as much water as possible into groundwater basins is certainly a smart way to approach it.
Yeah, it sure seems it's been effective in the efforts thus far. Again, Mike Wade from the California Farm Water Coalition, highlighting some of the latest California water news. And thanks again for your time here this morning, Mike. It's always insightful.
Great. Thanks for the call, Brian. Appreciate it.
And in other news, House Ag Chair G.T. Thompson is pushing back against Democrats' attacks on his Farm Bill proposal set for committee markup this Thursday. Thompson argues his newly named Farm, Food, and National Security Act is bipartisan, despite top House and Senate Ag Democrats' multiple claims it isn't. Thompson spoke on National Cattlemen's Beltway Beef podcast.
It is built in a bipartisan way, a transparent, open process, and I've got provisions I put into the chairman's mark that have come from both Republicans and Democrats, and quite frankly, the industry.
But top ag Democrats held a strategy meeting ahead of Thursday's planned Farm Bill markup that included House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and issued a statement that Thompson didn't listen to them and undermines the bill's chances this year. Thompson's response?
Let's not bring the politics to the Agriculture Committee like there are some folks who are trying to do that. Let's stay on the practical side, the policy side, and get this passed so that we can find a pathway to the floor and, quite frankly, provide something, maybe some type of model or an example for the Senate to follow.
But retiring Senate Ag Committee Debbie Stabenow has said repeatedly and publicly that she won't let her legacy be reducing food stamp benefits to pay for farm programs. Though Thompson and the GOP argue nutrition programs at more than 80% of the Farm Bill need reform, and the farm safety net, trade, and research need a boost. Thompson's hope?
I would hope that all members, Republican and Democrat, recognize the urgency, the struggles and the challenges. It's almost been unprecedented what our farmers and ranchers have been up against over the past 6 years.
Thompson says that urgency also extends to conversation where the ag committees need to claim $14 billion in remaining Inflation Reduction Act dollars for the Farm Bill. Otherwise, that money will be lost forever. This is the AgNet News Hour, and I'm your host, Brian German. We'll be back in just a moment with more agriculture news. Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour. I'm your host, Brian German. I recently had an opportunity to talk with Surendra Dara, extension entomologist and professor in the Department of Horticulture at Oregon State University, about some work he's conducting looking at the use of biologicals for pest management in California. And today we're talking about an ongoing effort looking for some industry participation here with a survey that's currently underway. And so, Surendra, what is this survey about, and what are you looking for here?
This survey is to know the knowledge and use of biologicals in various crops in California. It will help us to understand what are the current uses of various biological materials or products like macrobials, biopesticides based on botanical extracts, or microbial materials, and biofungicides, bionematicides, and so on. So this helps us to know what is being used and if there are any knowledge gaps and what needs to be done to encourage their use.
And now getting into this and what the purpose is and what the hope is for understanding, what's the driving factor there, and why is there a need to focus on this particular area?
Well, there are multiple reasons to focus on this. There are growing regulations about the use of certain synthetic pesticides, and there is also an increasing demand for sustainable and safe pest management options, and so on. And with these things in mind, we need to understand what is currently available in the market and what is the perception of the grower community, and if there is a need to enhance the outreach or research and training in this area as we train future generations. Another reason is that when you look at these biologicals, especially those based on microbials, it is a highly specialized area of work. If you take insect pathology, that is studying the diseases of insects or other arthropods, there are people who spend their entire careers on one organism or a group of similar organisms that belong to a group. These people are retiring, and very few universities, or maybe just one or two universities in the United States, are offering courses related to insect pathology. And then, we need more people to be trained in this area, so there are more graduate students and being becoming experts in insect pathology and related fields, and they can use their knowledge when they graduate either to conduct more research or use that knowledge to address pest issues using these microbial control options.
Yeah, we've talked about some of these options previously, and it does seem like in the past couple of years that there's a growing interest among the grower community. But from what you're describing, it seems like there might be some more need there for people dedicated to this type of research in order to get that information out to growers and work with growers so that there's some more understanding in this particular sector that seems to be generating quite a bit of interest.
You're right, Brian. There has been a growing interest, which is a very positive thing. And then because of that interest, there are also several biopesticides coming into the market, and industry is also investing quite a bit in developing good quality products. But the issue is that we need really to understand how each of these products work or the active ingredient works. Especially when we have microbes as active ingredients, each microbe may have a different environmental requirements or target species or life stages of those species. So we really need to understand all these dynamics in addition to knowing the pest and not just having a product to use. We need to understand how this product interacts with the pest and its life cycle, agronomic practices and microclimate and everything else. So this really is very important for all of us to recognize the need and provide information that enhances the knowledge about these products and best practices.
And I know in some of our previous conversations, a great proponent of integrated pest management and taking an integrated approach. And it seems like there's with so many new options out there and things that are coming to market now, you might need some more additional research into how these types of products and how these approaches can be integrated for maybe developing some even more well-rounded approaches to pest management, right?
Absolutely. You made that point very clear. These products or microbial or biological control options are always an important part of integrated pest management. Just like I was just mentioning, like how to understand the interaction between the pest and these materials, we also need to understand how these materials fit into the bigger picture of integrated pest management and other agronomic practices. So we do need a lot more research in the applied area to see what the efficacy is and how best we can make use of them as a part of IPM, and then again disseminate that information to the growers and crop care professionals and everybody else, so that we all can work together in addressing these issues in a sustainable way.
And circling back to the ongoing survey that is currently underway, I mean, this information will be collected and kind of used for those purposes. So what kind of information or questions are being asked in the survey? And then how can presumably that information be used moving forward to maybe address some of these challenges?
That's a great question, Brian. This survey is basically to see what kind of biologicals, macrobials or microbials or other biological pesticides are being used in various crops in California, and if whether people are aware of them or not, and if they are aware of them, have they used, or if they used, what is the level of satisfaction? And for those that don't use or used it minimally, I wanted to know the reasons for not using them, as much. A lot of times we hear that efficacy is a concern, and the speed of kill is also a concern, and all sometimes the cost of the product and so on are some of the concerns that are expressed by growers during multiple conversations. So I wanted to see what other information they provide and which of those concerns are very important, and so on. With this information, we can try to figure out a strategy where we can promote the use of these biologicals in an effective way, and industry partners can also work on optimizing the costs or improving the formulations and making all other efforts that can encourage growers to use these in an effective and effective manner that also makes financial sense. So I plan to present the information at a couple of scientific conferences and also write articles so that we can share the information with the grower community and ag industry partners and researchers as well. When we have some of these surveys done by other players, that information may not be fully available or freely available to everybody. But being a university person, I don't have any restrictions on sharing this the data from this anonymous survey, so it can be useful for many of us.
Very good. And we'll have a link up at agnetwest.com with a link to the survey. But where else might they be able to find it or learn some more information about how the survey is being conducted or contribute to it?
Well, I think people can contact me directly. And I think one or two ag magazines are also going to include this announcement in their upcoming issues. And the survey can also be found at tinyurl.com CA Biologicals Survey 2024. And this survey is going to be very useful for us to understand the needs of biologicals, and we can fine-tune our research and outreach efforts accordingly. When I share this information, regionally or nationally or internationally, it helps many people to focus on the research, applied research that helps address a lot of questions that the growers have, and also design outreach programs to fill the knowledge gaps in effective use of biologicals.
And finally, food and farm news from California Farm Bureau notes that California fleet owners are scrambling to comply with new rules to limit emissions from diesel-powered big rigs and other heavy-duty vehicles. As new standards go into effect, operators report the technology and infrastructure they need for compliance is not yet available and could still be years away. The Mart family, which owns Petaluma Egg Farm, uses 10 diesel-powered trucks to haul organic eggs. They need to replace 2 with zero-emission vehicles or install battery-powered refrigerating units. However, manager Jordan Mart said the problem is they don't yet exist.
To get more information on the topics you heard today, visit AgNet West online at agnetwest.com. You can also stay connected by following us on our social media at AgNet West on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find our broadcast team of Brian German and Sabrina Halvertson on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for listening to the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. AgNet West Radio Network, your primary choice for agriculture news.